Hey, this is John Bohlinger with Premier Guitar. Today we're taking a first look at the brand new 2-Rock Vintage Deluxe. Before I tell you all about this very cool new amp, take a second to subscribe below, and that way we'll keep you apprised of all the cool gear that's out there. So, I'm a longtime 2-Rock fan, and this is a great addition to their line. What I like about it is I'm also a Deluxe fan. There's my old 64 Deluxe, but what I don't like about that amp is I can't gig with it. It just isn't loud enough. Great for the studio, but my feeling is if you can't drown out a drummer when you need to, what good is it? This thing is way louder, but it also gives you the option of cutting your power down considerably, which is where I'm running right now. So they've kind of thought of everything for the modern player that needs to occasionally bring that volume down or bring it way up. So good on you. Let me tell you the rest of the ingredients. So there's two different versions of this amp. There is the 6V6 version that comes with a solid state rectifier, and then we're playing today the 6L6 version, which comes with the GZ34 tube rectifier. So the amp is running into their matching cabinet. This model comes with a single 15, which I really love. I think it gives it a lot of that rich bottom end, which I've got rolled down a bit, but there's also a 310 version. But I'm glad we went with this. It's totally my bag. So the Vintage Deluxe is a single channel amp built with a steel chassis, which is like they did back in the day. So it sort of has that it's building on that format. But they've added all these modern ingredients that players like all of us really enjoy. On the back of the amp, you have 3 different speaker output options. So there's 4, 8, or 16 ohms, take your pick. And if you are into effects loops, it's got that too. So they really did think of everything. Let's start across the front panel. So the first thing you have is the gain knob, which I don't have. It doesn't come on a Deluxe, and I really like that because you can dial in a little bit of hair, and then right above it you have this switch for texture, and the texture switch changes the character of the amp from a softer, scooped in the down position to kind of a faster attack with an increased amount of harmonic content and texture when it's engaged, which is where I came in. So let's explore the differences. I'm going to bring the gain down, so it's a little cleaner than the way I came in. On the front, I wanted a little bit of that dirt, but right now I've got it down, and I had the texture up. Now let's just hear it with the texture down, gain in the middle. To me, that's just a great kind of jazzy tone. See, great jazz gig amp. But when I bring this up, I think that the tone gets a little more subtly aggressive. It's not that it's overdriven, but there's a little something there, a little more texture is kind of the right word for it. But I find when I dial in that gain, bring it up a little bit, then you're going to hear more of a difference. Take off the texture. Put it on. So I love that you can kind of tailor it to whatever you're playing. So let's move down the line. Over here, next you have treble, mids, and bass. Love the fact that there's mid-range on that, because to me, that's where guitar lives, mid-range. And on, say, my old amp, I don't have that, and man, do I miss it. But here you have all these you can dial it right where you want it. I brought the bottom end down a little bit because this amp gives you a ton of bottom end. So I brought it down a little bit, but other than that, I'm basically flat. But if you bring in this bright switch, it's just gonna pop out more. Bring it down a bit too. Generally, I'm not a fan of bright switches, but I think this just kind of livens it up. Here it is without. Again, not over the top, somewhat subtle, but I like the subtlety. Now let's hear the bright switch without the texture involved. Okay, here it is off. That kind of takes the blanket off it a little bit. Love that. So as we move our way over here, we get to my favorite part of the amp. It has a lush reverb and a biased tremolo. Both of these are tube-driven effects, and they sound great. Two-Rock really has that dialed in. You can engage the tremolo with this switch here, or with this convenient foot pedal right here. Built like a tank. Let's hear it. Here we are. Speed gets pretty intense if you want to. Kind of gives you that, sci-fi from the 60s thing. The slow is kind of dreamy. Turn that all the way up, the intensity. You can make it pretty subtle as well. Super slow. So love that. I've been playing with that with the texture off, but let's hear with the texture on. To me, that texture kind of wakens up everything. So let's move over to the reverb. On front, we have a reverb send. On the back panel, there's a reverb return. So right now, I've got them both in the middle. What I like about the return in back is that in the heat of battle while playing, it's easy to notch a reverb higher than you want to go, and it kind of gets out of your hands. So to me, the return on the back is kind of a fail-safe. It keeps you from taking it too far, or you can dial in a sound ahead of time so you set your parameters. Now if I goose this in back all the way, then it gets pretty wet. Probably more than I want to go. Put it right in the middle. Get it right where I want it. So next we have the master, which I'm running fairly low right now on the low setting because there is a lot of headroom. But if I were to goose this, go much higher than that, I'm going to be overdriving my preamps on the recorder, but it has a lot of headroom. And working that in conjunction with the gain can give you a clean signal at a very loud level, or a dirty signal at a fairly low volume. So love that. Next we have the presence. There's a lot of amps I use where I never even touch the presence because I don't like it. I feel like it just kind of makes things a little harsh. But I find this one very, very musical. Here it is right in the middle. Bring it up there. Got a real spankiness there, but bring it down to in the middle. All the way down. So it's just one more tool to kind of sculpt your tone. And that's what we do, right? Because your tone is always changing. It changes from whatever room you're in, changes from your guitar. I think it kind of changes on, I don't know, anything. Tubes aging, the energy, whatever. I love the fact that you can tweak it. So let's get into the last ingredient on the front, which is their tone stack. The knob on the back of the rear panel becomes active and disengages the front panel treble, middle, and bass controls, and just gives you this raw, open sound. And to me, it's kind of the perfect lead boost. And this is controlled by either that switch on front or your handy foot pedal right there. Okay, here we are, and again, I'm about 3/4 up on back. So here's our bass tone. Here it is engaged. It really opens it up. But if that's too much for you, we'll just dial it back and back. Bring it down to a more subtle. Then up. That is a great rock and roll tone. And again, I'm just going straight into the amp with this guitar. Another key difference is with the high-low switch in back. When you're playing on the 6v6 version, it goes from 40 watts down to 20. But on the 6L6 version, actually the high mode is fixed bias, whereas the low mode is a cathode bias. So let's just go ahead and hear it a little bit. So here I am in low mode, which is a cathode bias. And up top, high mode is the fixed bias. Now let's go ahead and hear some single coils on this. So now we're still in the high setting, and this is my old 55 Strat. A little more verb. Just a great, dreamy kind of Strat tone. Dreamy, right? And then put a little more gain on it, put that texture up. Let's hear what that does. One thing I really love about this amp, to me, the best amps, you hear the guitar, if that makes sense. You get the personality of the guitar. There's some amps where I can't tell what they're playing from hearing it, because they all every guitar kind of sounds the same. But to me, with this amp, a Strat sounds like a Strat. Those weird mini hums sound like mini hums. And hell, we'll try some full-on humbucker as well, so you can hear what that does. But there's just no confusing that for anything else. It is a Strat, and you totally hear it with the amp. So for funsies, let's go ahead and try some humbuckers and maybe try an overdrive in front of it. Okay, so here I am. This is my 2019 stock Les Paul. The identical settings is a Strat, but listen to this difference. Then if we turn on this tone stack, it really gets interesting. Let me take off the tone stack and then turn off the bright and turn off the texture. just a ton of options in this. You really, what I love about this amp, you really can do a gig or whatever without pedals, just going straight into it. So good on you, 2Rock. To read the full written review, go to premierguitar.com. While you're online, make sure you subscribe to all our social media stuff, your Twitters, your Instagrams, your TikToks, Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to the magazine. We'll keep you up to date on all the cool gear that's out there. This is John Bohlinger. Till next time.